Greetings, fellow students and followers of Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Hello, my name is Alan Duncan. It's now October 9th in the year 2011, and tonight we'll be talking about the second habit, which is called Start with the End in Mind. Now, as you'll recall, Covey had 7 habits, and we've talked about habit number 1 in the last video, which was be proactive. Now we're moving on to habit 2, which is start with the end in mind. Now, what do you think Covey meant when he said start with the end in mind? Well, I think he means that what we want to do is think about what is going to be the meaning of our life. In other words, what did we want to achieve? What achievement do we want that is going to be our value to the world? Something that we value, that we would like to achieve with our lives during our lifetime. Now, I know we're thinking very long-term here, but it is the way to really think about. If you get focused on the long term, then you can decide upon small things along the way that get you there to the end in mind that you had, the achievements that you wanted or what you wanted your life to stand for. Now, Covey has a really good exercise that helps us get to that point of what is going to be our meaning in life. And that process is that we are to imagine. Imagine yourself at your funeral, and you're at the end of your life, but you have 3 very good friends that you've known over your life, and they're going to get up at your funeral and speak about you. Think about what you would want them to say about you. What would you really feel proud about that they might say at your funeral to help others understand what your life was all about and what you achieved with your life? So that is really the end, isn't it? If you start at your funeral, you're really at the end of your life, and then you can get rid of all the other things in your mind that don't have very much meaning and get focused on the real things, because when you're gone, when you've passed on, it's really important to know in your mind that you've achieved something with your life, something that you wanted to achieve. It can be your goal. It is your goal. In fact, that is the essence, really the essence of the statement. Start with the end in mind is the essence of goal setting. It's the start. In other words, to think about what you wanted to achieve is where you start. And then you go through the goal setting process where you think about things that occur earlier in time, and then things that you have to learn, so things that you might achieve each day, and then things that you achieve in the next month, and then the things that you achieved in the next year. You're setting goals for those periods in time in your life, and then as you move back into what you do each day, you align it with those things that you wanted to achieve within the next year, and so on, and maybe all the way back really to the end of your life. Well, Covey has a few things that he says. I'm just going to go through them very briefly, which I think helps understand this concept of habit number 2, which he calls begin with the end in mind. This is the habit of personal leadership, meaning you begin each day or task with a clear understanding of your desired direction and destination. By keeping that in mind, you can make certain that whatever you do does not violate the criteria you have defined as supremely important. That thing that you wanted to get at the end. Begin with the end in mind is based on the principle that all things are created twice. There is a mental or first creation and a physical or second creation. The second creation follows from the first, just as a building follows from a blueprint. in our personal lives if we do not develop our own self-awareness and become responsible for first creations. We empower other people and circumstances to shape our lives by default. The most effective way to begin with the end in mind is to develop a personal mission statement, philosophy, or creed that focuses on what you want to be, your character, or and do your contributions. So I believe that is the essence. When we talk about goal setting, as I said, the concept of start with the end in mind is the principle of goal setting. As Covey said, you have first must think about, that's the plan. He called that the mental creation. You think about what it is you want to achieve, and then you go about the process of achieving it. The physical creation is the end, the final part, because you've then created it, because you've made it physical. But it starts off as a thought, which is the goal setting process. You set the goal for yourself of what you want. Now, goal setting itself is a science, and there I would suggest that you pursue some additional resources about goal setting. But to make it very short, we first of all would think probably quite far in the future of think of some of the major goals that you'd like to achieve. Then you have to back up and start thinking about what do I have to do maybe in the next day, or maybe in the next month, and then back up a little further and think what do I need to do in the next week, and then of course back to what you do each day as you go about your task of setting your goals for the day. You want to make sure that some of the things that you do during the day are focused on those things that you want to achieve, the end that you had in mind. That's it for habit number 2. We'll talk about habit number 3 next week, which is first things first. Now, if we summarize the 7 habits again, habit number 1 is to be proactive. Habit number 2 is to start with the end in mind. And habit number 3 is first things first. We'll talk about habit number 3 next time. And as I said before, the first 3 habits are really the habits of personal development. It's where you develop your personal skills of what you can do as a person to achieve your goals and your final ends that you wanted. That is where you achieve independence. The next 4 habits then are interdependence. We'll get to that a little bit later, but I'm going to stop for now, and then next time we'll talk about first things first. So, with that, good night, and we'll pick it up a little bit later, signing off on October 9th in the year 2011. Goodbye.